Hello and welcome back to Buried. We just finished chapter 2. Now we're moving on to chapter 3, and this time I brought water. It tastes a little bit more like chlorine than I like my water to taste, but you know, that's just how it's gonna be. It would be real sexy if this game could do a cool thing where it loads the next little bit. Just in case of what? End of chapter 2. There we go. There, okay, we're Gucci. Sorry about that. Can I get an F11 action? That's chillin'. Curiosity. You and 58% of players called out to Marcus when you saw him in the tunnel. Selflessness. You and 64% of players stepped in front of Dennis to protect him from Marcus. Hi, bud. Mercy. You and 65% of players were easy on Marcus after he surrendered. Begin chapter 3. Ooh, a control room. I hope we see aliens soon. We follow Marcus into what I can only describe as a control room of sorts. There are countless computer screens, some of which are obviously coming on from having been shut off. There are countless... Everything looks extremely complicated, from screens filled with code to data to what is obviously a security system. It reminds me of a miniaturized version of the Operations Center in just about every space travel movie I've ever seen. Marcus is running from one screen to another, apparently looking for some pertinent bit of information. Where's the first aid kit? I snap at him. Marcus stops in his tracks, as if he has forgotten the whole reason for bringing us down here. Oh, yeah, he says, rushing to the left side of the room. There, he hunkers down by an opened panel in the wall, what I assume is the emergency vault from where he got the rifle. I hope y'all like dog ASMR, because my dog's just having a rough day and acting really annoying. Look at community auditors, peer into open vault. Let's look in the vault, I guess. I peer over Marcus's shoulder into the vault he's opened. It's much larger than it looks from the outside. It's partially filled with files, folders marked classified, a few rounds of ammo for the rifle, a peculiar plastic kit filled with syringes, and a locked black box. As Marcus digs around, one of the folders slips open. For the split second it's open, I see a scanned document and a colored photo. The photo shows a male corpse with its guts on the outside of its body, as if it has been turned inside out. There's also massive swelling in his head, almost like his skull is about to explode. Marcus slaps the folder closed, and I turn my attention to one of the syringes. It's filled with a violet color fluid that, while rather pretty in color, looks deadly. Marcus finally pulls out the first aid kit and turns around. When I look back to motion Dennis over, he's paler than ever. Come on, I tell him, but he's not moving from the place on the floor where he sits against the wall. I slide the first aid kit over to him and go scrambling to his side. Between the struggle for the rifle upstairs and arriving in this room, he's fading fast. I struggle to lift his shirt up and then over his shoulders as the dried blood holds it in place. The mere act causes him to grimace. This might hurt a little, I tell Dennis. He only nods. He doesn't seem to care. Damn. I'm really surprised Dennis made it this far, to be honest. I feel like he almost died so many times. I'm ripping it off like a band-aid because that seems like the better option. Shh. Figuring out the old rip-off band-aid metaphor applies here, I tear the shirt off him quickly. Plus, I don't feel like we exactly have a lot of time. Dennis lets out a scream of pain and fury. What the hell, man? Sorry, I say, casting the bloody shirt aside for the moment. Wincing in pain, he leans back against the wall and takes a series of deep breaths. His wound is more visible now, although it's partially hidden by the blood that has started to clot around it. My medical knowledge is slim, basically just a bunch of basics I learned in Boy Scouts. I look over to Marcus hopefully and ask, "You have any training?" "Zero," he says. "Sorry." It's just as well, I guess. He's far too concerned with what's happening on the monitors to be of much help anyway. I start by taking out the several rolls of gauze within the kit and wiping as much blood as I can away from the wound on his side. It's even worse than I had figured from the start. The gash is deep and dark. I'm pretty sure it's infected too. He's going to need stitches, that's for sure, but I have no idea even how to start that. Besides, I don't see the tools for it in this kit. When I splash rubbing alcohol over the wound, he responds with a hoarse yelp of surprise, but nothing more. His eyes are locked on me and he looks appreciative, but he's also scared. Be honest, Dennis says, hopefully. How bad does it look? Do you think I'll live? I mean, if the plot demands you live, you will live. I don't know, but but that's gonna be up to. I'm so sorry. I keep hitting my headphones on the mic pop filter. You'll be fine. No problemo. Good to know, he says, because I sure don't feel like that. You've been through hell, I say. I think it feels worse than it actually looks. Thanks. That's a relief. I just lied to his face. I won't lie. You're gonna have a scar, I say, trying to be funny. He chuckles a bit, but there's no humor in it. He rests his eyes against the wall and closes his eyes as I finish up. His head against the wall. Dyslexia. I place one layer of gauze against the wound and bind it with medical tape. I then reinforce it with a second layer. I know it's meager, but it's all I can do. Thanks, Roger, he says, actually managing to force out a smile. I feel a lot better. I think I'll be fine. That's what they all say before they die. I'm not sure about that, but I'm glad I was able to encourage him. Finally, I patch up the bruises on my head a bit, cursing myself again for not grabbing my hard hat. I look back to Marcus and he's looking back at us, deep in thought. My eye is starting to really swell up from where he kicked me earlier. Maybe I shouldn't have let him off so easy. Are these first aid kits all you have in this facility? I ask him. If there's something better, I don't know about it, he says. I notice that his defensive posture is no longer there. Something is different now, just a slight change in his demeanor. He's seen something on those monitors that has him frightened, more than he already was before. What is it? I ask. What's wrong? His eyes travel around the room and it's obvious he's trying to decide whether or not to tell the truth. Come on, spit it out, or get up and look at the monitors. I'm gonna bully him because he gave me a black eye and that's not cool. Spit it out, bitch. Just what in the hell is going on here? I ask, not really sure I want to know the answer. His defiant gaze tells me that he's not going to be any help, so I decide to look around for myself. Damn it. After a few moments, I see a few things that even I can comprehend, hidden inside the complex information on most of the screens. On one screen, I see what looks like a power meter that is slowly climbing upwards. A single message is flashing beneath it. It reads, "It's the chlorine water, sorry. Unexpected power failure. Foreign entity." Another message trickling along the bottom of the black screen says, "Safety locks on. Level 3 containment doors engaged. Override?" I see still scenes on a few other screens that I assume are security cameras showing hallways and passages from elsewhere in the facility. One of them shows the first level hallway we were on just a few minutes ago. Another shows a hallway I don't recognize. The floor is covered in blood. From just off the screen, I see what I think might be a human body, but it's bent in an impossible way. It looks like the body's legs and torso have somehow been merged or melted into the floor. What's wrong with the system? What happened to that person there? I'm kind of more interested in how one becomes one with the floor. I have no idea. I didn't see it, he says. Whatever happened to that guy must have happened in the last minute or so. What the hell? I ask. There's something still happening? Are we still in danger? He turns away, clearly fearing that he already has said too much. And as bad as that is, there's a scene on another monitor that makes my blood go cold and my fear spike to levels somewhere near terror. The scene is very familiar. It's the logging site. The equipment is unmistakably mine. I can even see my truck. Something like fury starts to rise up in my guts, momentarily pushing aside the fear. For a moment, I consider just tearing into him, a few punches and a shove against the wall. Nothing more. I want answers and I want them now, but I'm not sure which would provide more answers, asking calmly or kicking his ass. Well, They teach you in interrogation school to become friends with a person if you would like them to talk to you, because no one likes to talk to people that are being mean to them. So I'm gonna go with the good old, hey bud, what the fuck is you doing? Could you please explain to me why you've been spying on my crew? My anger is prodding at me and I have to hold it back again. It's nearing the surface, demanding a release. It was part of my job, mine and a few others. Your crew has been watched ever since you set up your equipment. Why? Because you're working with heavy equipment, some of which digs into the ground, less than a mile from a secret government facility. I had no idea of that, I say. How could I have known? Marcus gives me that same crooked, trembling smile that's beginning to creep me out. Because those things would draw attention to this place, he says. You have no idea how secretive this facility is. Fan noises. Besides, I know the higher-ups looked into it. Your site isn't on government land. It's shy by about 300 yards. Every piece of your equipment is on private property. That timber tract you purchased from Mr. Gladstone 2 months ago. So even if we wanted to intervene and keep your crew away, we couldn't have without stirring up a fuss. The fact that someone with such a low-level clearance knows this much about my logging crew is unnerving. If you've been watching us, why didn't you recognize us when we met in the hallway? I ask. He shakes his head and exhales like it's obvious. The cameras have a bird's eye view. I can't see faces. We just track bodies and names. So where the hell is my crew? So since you have all this survey... Shout out to Zane for barking! So since you have all this surveillance, do you know where the rest of my crew is? I do my best to keep my voice level, even though my impulse is to shout. Well, Marcus says, all of you were on the site as usual before the incident. It had been a few hours since I checked, though. They might have come near the facility, or maybe not. I don't know. He says, this casually, like it's not important. Well, are they inside the facility? I ask. You have cameras everywhere, right? Do you see them? Marcus shakes his head. I've been looking all over and haven't seen your crew. They aren't here. Chlorine. Buddy, but, he adds, the lower levels don't have any cameras. Classified. I'm not sure how they would have gotten there, but it's a possibility. I'm still shocked that we're being watched. Did you know everything about us? Do they know everything about us? I'm telling you, Marcus says, the depth of influence in this facility goes deep. There are 36 employees down here. Outside of those employees, only 5 other people know this place exists. What do all these people do here? I ask, keeping my voice level. He doesn't even pause to consider if he should go any further. He actually laughs and gives me the answer. I honestly don't know everything. Probably very little, but what I do know is that it is more than Black Ops. What does that mean? I ask. There are scientists here who have been disowned by their own governments because of the nature of their work. You get it now? I don't. Not at all. But I don't want him to know that. You said there are 36 employees, I say. Where are they now? He shakes his head. As far as I know, everyone else is gone. Gone where? He points to the screen that still informs us of the unexpected power failure and cringes. If this power failure was not corrected in time, there's no telling. But they're here in the facility somewhere, right? I ask, hoping someone will be able to help Dennis better than I can. I don't know, Marcus says. They could be anywhere. Look, I say, furious with the way he's talking in riddles. I don't... Hey, boss, Dennis says, his voice flat and toneless. He stands up and is now looking blankly at one of the monitors. My eyes follow his, and when I see what's on the monitor... Oh my god, I'm dissociating. My heart pounds in my chest. Who's that, I ask, indicating the portion of leg sticking out from the overturned dozer. Guilt slams into me like a bullet between the eyes. In my panic and fear, I'd avoided even trying to pull him out. More than that, I still haven't told Dennis. Holy shit, he says, looking closer. It's Tony. He's dead. Dennis looks like he's just been punched in the stomach. He looks at me, unbelieving. Did you know? Dennis demands. Okay, look. I'm gonna tell him the truth, that we knew, but we didn't feel like talking about it. Yes. You knew Tony was dead this whole time and you didn't tell me? This whole time? He stands up and lunges at me, but is too weak. I take a step back, avoiding his advance. What good would it have done, I ask? You'd still be hurt and we'd still be here anyway. I didn't want to add more to your plate. He only glares at me and I think I see some sort of dull understanding in his eyes. Suddenly, something blazes by the open door outside. The shape is vast and in shadow, but I'm pretty sure it's a person. Someone else is here, Marcus says, wheeling around. He seems very happy to discover this, so I try to follow his lead. If something bad happened at this facility, then surely the sight of another survivor is a good thing, right? We should check it out, he says, but I can't help but feel this is a bad moment to leave Dennis. As I turn to tell him I'm heading out with Marcus, he's not even looking at me. It's clear he's still pissed that I kept him in the dark about Tony. That literally just, it smells like pool water, you know? It is not pool water, it is tap water. I'm sorry, I should have told you. Well, maybe you could have realized that, I don't know, before waiting God knows how many hours. His shout rings in the small room. All I can do is look at the floor. This guy was practically my best. He stops talking and I can tell he's sniffling a sob. I'm sorry, Dennis, I start. About Tony, about not telling you, Just go check out who that person might be, he says, cutting me off. I turn to Marcus and motion for us to head out to investigate. Let's be careful, Marcus says. Depending on who it is, they might not be as hesitant to shoot a stranger as I was. I nod at him as I head for the door. I'm still holding the rifle in my hand, and I don't know if I have the guts to actually use it if needed. With a final look back to Dennis, I run out into the second-level hallway. Continue. The art is so fun. It really looks like a hospital. Marcus follows. There's still fear in his eyes, but also the slightest glimmer of hope. That hope is contagious. We take off after the figure that just ran past the command center. Ahead of us, the facility presents yet another long hallway. Right away, I notice that this level of the facility seems darker, even though the lights are now all on. The hallway is adorned with numbered yellow doorways and large white panels along the walls. It's clean and well maintained, but there's something ominous about it. Up ahead, I see the fleeting motion of something dark cutting quickly to the left, down the corridor. There, I say quietly, pointing up ahead. Marcus gives a nod and we continue to chase after the person we saw blaze past the command center just a few moments ago. It then occurs to me that this person could be like Marcus was at first, armed and scared. Then I feel like we should be like, hey, Tony! Hey, stop! Who's there? I get no response and I'm unsure if I should be relieved or upset about this. The last person we met nearly killed me with a rifle. Why would this person be any different? I dart around the corner and take the same shooting stance I've seen countless times on TV. There's a woman standing there, about 10 feet away. She has reddish blonde hair and a small, mousy build. She looks terrified and is visibly shaking. She's probably in her late 30s, wearing a lab coat with dark jeans and green Converse low tops. Those are not good lab shoes. I have a strange sense that her fear is not just about her sudden appearance. She looks like a woman who's been running scared for a while now. Her hands are raised in surrender. She's not holding a weapon. Marcus slowly approaches, taking a few steps ahead of me. It's Amy, right? He asks. She blinks, seemingly surprised that he knows her name. Yes, she says. And you're Mark? Marcus. She nods absently and then looks at my rifle. I'm not finna use it, B. It's just for intimidation. How do I know that? She asks. You're trespassing on government property in the midst of a huge, catastrophic event, and you have a rifle. How am I supposed to believe you? I have a friend back in the command center who needs medical attention, I say, and we're looking for the rest of our crew. I'm really sorry, but I don't know where they are, she says. Do you know what's happened? Marcus asks. From the power outage? I don't know what caused it, she says, but there was an experiment taking place when the outage occurred. Something happened, and she trails off here, giving me a look of distrust. I saw things on the security monitors, Marcus says. The experiment failed, didn't it? I don't know the specifics, Amy says. I barely escaped the third floor. I was going to go to the command center and see if the security footage showed anything, but then I saw you and the gun. Listening to their conversation, I feel totally in the dark. What experiments? What has you so scared? Will we get an answer for either of these questions? Jesus. I need to stop eating and drinking chlorine water before I record. God, it tastes like childhood. Why are you scared? Amy looks at me, her eyes wide and terrified. Who are you anyway? She asks. I give her my story. A logger stranded in the woods following a peculiar explosion at a logging site. As I tell her, recognition blooms in her eyes. You're one of the loggers? Yes. She then looks at Marcus and says, I thought they were being watched. They were, Marcus says. This was a freak accident, and there's no proof that they were responsible. I feel myself wanting to submit to all of the questions that are piled up in my head, but Dennis is waiting for me. Can you help my boy out before he dies? I decide that despite my curiosity, I need to get Dennis help as soon as humanly possible. Look, is there any medical help to be had here or not? I ask. Probably, Amy says, but you'd have to find Colonel Barksdale. He knows where all of those sorts of supplies are. And where is he? Where is everyone else? I ask. At this, Amy starts to weep. She falls to her knees as if someone struck her from behind. Gone, she says. Some were killed and some were just... I don't know. They disappeared right in front of me. Nani? Something's here with us, Amy says. We were conducting an experiment and it all went horribly wrong. Something came through. Came through what? Marcus asks. I don't even know that much. An entity, but whatever it is, it's still here somewhere. Amy responds. How could you not know? Don't you have full security access? I ask. Well, I have access to almost everything, since there are 2 levels of security beyond my clearance. So, what do you suggest we do now? I ask. I'm not sure, she says, wiping her tears away. But if you want to find the crew, we need to find Barksdale. If you want to find your crew, we need to find Barksdale. He's in charge. Where is he? I ask. Down on the 3rd level, in the hangar. Then let's go, I say. It's not that easy, Amy says, again looking to the rifle in my hands. Why not? Like I said, something came through when the power went out. There's several of them, all roaming the 3rd level. What came through? All I know is that the others referred to them as entities. Amy shuddered as she recalls the horrors she'd seen. I don't even know how to describe them. I didn't get a good look, she says. All I did was run for my life. Behind me, I just heard screams. I know it's not very scientific of me, but I didn't feel like sticking around to learn more. She's right, Marcus says, stopping my train of thought. The things I saw on the monitors. It was crazy. This is insane, I bark. I'm going to the 3rd level to find this Barksdale guy. Thanks for your help. Wait, Marcus says. I'm sticking with you. If we want to get out of here, we have to find Barksdale, right? Yeah, Amy says. But Barksdale's on the 3rd floor and it's too dangerous to go back there. I figure I'll let them make their own decisions. In the meantime, I start heading back to the command center to get Dennis. Before I get there, I hear their footfalls behind me, getting closer. I give Amy a questioning look and she looks away, clearly torn. Neither of you know your way around here, she says. Looking for Barksdale on your own would be suicide. Like it or not, she has a point. Fine, I say. Then let's get Dennis from the command center and head down together. Back at the command center, I wonder what all those buttons do. I mean, if they were real buttons, you know? We enter the command center, and I'm happy to see that Dennis has regained some of his color. We're going to get you some help, I tell him, and then we're going to find our crew and get the hell out of here. More help would be great, he says, but the way you ripped my shirt off earlier, I'm not letting you touch me again. Wait, Amy says. Maybe one of us should stay here with him. I'll be okay, Dennis says. He stands up to his feet with a grunt. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's out there, Amy says. I saw them. I saw what they can do. This facility is not safe. What can they do? Are there any of them on this floor? I feel like they could probably get to this floor, but are they here now? I'm not sure, she says, but they're down on the 3rd floor, so we'll need to be careful. Marcus looks a little hesitant, but he nods in his agreement, and the 4 of us exit the command center. Heading back out into the hallway, I look back to the monitors. I take a final look at the screen that shows my wrecked logging site and feel a pang of sorrow. Then I look to the other monitors, showing live feeds of the facility's security cameras. I try to tell myself that I'm not looking for any sign of Amy's creatures, but I can't. That's exactly what I'm doing, and there's no need to pretend otherwise. We head back through the hall and toward the elevator. The tension exists between us as like a physical presence. Whoops. I really tried to use left mouse click instead of space. We step inside the elevator and those pristine doors close. Inside the elevator, Amy seems to be much more guarded and distant from us. I want to assure her that I mean no harm, but I'm also not going to put the rifle down. So you have pretty high clearance in this place, right? I ask her. That's right. So what kind of experiment are we talking about? What went wrong? When she starts to answer my question, I can tell that it is something of a relief for her to get some of it off her chest. There's been a lot of work on a project taking place over the last 3 years or so. The purpose is to find out if there's any real viable science beyond the point of instantiation? Like teleporting? I ask. Oh my god, Marcus says. I had no idea. I knew there was some weird stuff, but nothing this insane. It's really not all that insane, Amy says. We found our first major breakthrough about 9 months ago. We were able to transport a live rat from its cage on level 3 to a small lab in New Mexico. The trip took the rat 5 seconds. Are you kidding me? Dennis says. I can tell that he wants to sound as if he's mocking the idea, but he fails. He's scared. Not at all, Amy says. The problem was that when the rat arrived, its retinas were detached and its intestines were on the outside of its body. Why is this important now? Well, about 6 months ago, we successfully made the same experiment. The rat arrived in great health, and this time, in just 3 seconds. Still, one of the things we needed to tweak in order to make the process completely safe was to figure out how to keep the subject on a straight course. When the matter is being transported, not only are its atoms becoming unknit and then put back together upon arrival. Is this dude so dense that he doesn't know what transported and unknit mean? Bruh. Transported? Yes, deconstructed and translated through space. It's the only way we know how to do it right now. But the issue, as I said, comes in keeping the deconstructed subject on a straight course to its destination. When the process occurs, we are deforming space-time. We're creating a shortcut through space, and that has high risks. Why exactly? Dennis asks. Because there are many more dimensions in space than the 3 we exist on, she explains. There's some evidence that there are as many as 10. So, when you sent the rat to New Mexico, it's traveling through another dimension to get there? I ask. Basically. And because of that, we were trying to get a better understanding of what those other dimensions are capable of. Things that a great deal of the population would be scared of if they knew that's what we were doing. Hence all the privacy. Then, today, the power went out right in the middle of an experiment. Something happened. What? I don't know. She's speaking with authority of someone who knows what she's talking about. This is actually really cool. I might link another video explaining the, theory that 10 dimensions exist, because it's really, a huge mindfuck, but also, really interesting to think about, and, the whole idea that if you can jump to the 4th dimension, you can basically skip over time, which is a real, as far as I know, not a true theory, but, it's an idea. What have you seen in these dimensions? Other worlds. Other Tegmark universes, where our laws of nature don't apply, she says, not bothering to explain what that means. I'm not cleared for such things, but I do get the reports. What reports? Marcus asks. I'm given access to the results of the tests. In other words, Marcus replies, clearly upset. You guys have been peeking into other dimensions and taking notes on what you see? I can't believe I've wasted my life for this, he murmurs to himself. He looks like he's starting to freak out. Amy is quiet. Her expression indicates that she's waiting to see how I react to all this. That's real cool, though. I think that's kind of incredible. If that was actually possible. But then also, there was a dimension where their experiment already worked. I am impressed. So, this is interdimensional stuff, I ask. In a way, Amy answers. Marcus, on the other hand, is incredulous. I don't want anything to do with this, he says. All this time I've been working for... He laughs cruelly, and the sound of it makes my blood go cold for a moment. Just a single level beneath my feet, you assholes been tearing apart space and time, Marcus continues. When the elevator door opens, I can't get out fast enough. The tension is growing way too thick for my liking. Outside of the elevator, we step into what appears to be a massive industrial area. The carnage waiting for us is unlike anything I'd seen on the upper levels. Yikes. This is gonna be fun. The area looks industrial, like everything was built for utility only. But more noticeable is that is all of the blood. My god, I've never seen so much blood. Those creatures must have had a field day. Holy shit, Marcus says, looking like a man that just awoke from a very bad dream. There were more personnel in this area when the experiment went haywire, Amy says, as if the explanation makes it all better. The research you all do down here had better be worth it, I say. We have to get moving or we're going to lose our nerve. Amy, let's focus. Barksdale is in the hangar? I ask. If he's still alive, yes, that's where he'll be. Then let's hurry, I say. As far as I can tell, Dennis is doing much better, but I'm beginning to grow tired of trying to keep my fear at bay. Between the blood on the floor, the silence of level 3, and Amy's talk of the lab rats, I'm getting freaked out. I'm big macho man. Lager dude. The 4 of us start walking ahead, with me in the lead. Also, I have a rifle. We stop walking when we come to the remains of what looks to be 3 different people. It's hard to tell how many bodies were there because they've been torn to shreds and are all distorted. 2 of the bodies look as if they've been fused together. Another man looks to have his leg welded through the floor. I can see this man's face. He died in an abject state of horror, his mouth pried open in an internal scream. Once again, I don't like touching dead bodies. That's how you get diseases. Just gonna skirt along. It's simply too much. Worse than that is the fact that we just started our journey through level 3. If there is worse waiting up ahead, I don't think I'm going to be able to make it. Dennis steps up behind me, and when he speaks, his voice is soft and flat. What in the hell could do that to someone? He asks. The things I saw? Amy answers. They could do it pretty easily, I think. She looks pale, and I think that she might pass out at any moment. Tears spill from her eyes, and she's visibly shaking. but she soldiers on, looking back to me and stepping to the side of the gruesome carnage. Her eyes again go to my rifle, and she doesn't look very hopeful. You good to go? You good to go? She asks me. We need to move on, but for some reason I can't take my eyes off the scene. My mind is reeling, trying to process it all. Let's go. We leave a grisly sight behind, moving into another equally destroyed area. From what I can tell, the next room was once an open area for experimentation. The place hasn't just been destroyed, it's been physically altered in a way that makes no sense. Their girders look to have been warped, their very materials distorted and twisted. To my right, a machine has been catapulted and looks to have somehow merged with the wall rather than crushing into it. Beyond these phenomena, there is a standard violence I was expecting to see. There's a limp arm sticking out from underneath the wreckage, and more blood. I see no signs of an explosion, which makes me wonder just how this happened. Seeing the aftermath is sickening enough, but it makes me wonder if Amy saw it while it was happening. It's not nice to ask people, did you see other people die? What happened to the girders? I only caught a glimpse of it, she says. It was like trying to focus your eye on something that was too close. They just started twisting, but not creaking or breaking. It's like these creatures are able to deform matter. She pauses here, and that's when we hear something echo through the facility. It comes from behind us and slightly to the right. I'm not sure what it is, but it makes my blood feel like ice. It sounds almost like static from an AM radio, but there's a high-pitched noise beneath it that I can't even start to fathom. What in the hell is that? I ask, instantly clapping my hands to my ears. One of them, Amy says, her voice a whisper. One of the creatures. That's what they sound like? Dennis asks. I can see that he's leaning against the wall again, wincing at the noise. I suddenly realize that I have a death grip on the rifle, ready to shoot at the next thing I see. How far away do you think they are? Anything between us and them? Those are like the same question, but worded differently. Not that I feel like it doesn't even matter. Not really, she says. None of the hallways are blocked off by secure doors. Everyone seems to take this as a cue to start moving again. We make our way around the office wreckage, now with new purpose in our step. We barely make it to the other side of the room, approaching a dark hallway, when another high-pitched noise sounds out. This one is louder, closer. We all share a terrified look, and I can tell that Amy is on the verge of losing it. I grip the rifle tightly as we head toward the hallway in front of us. I'm gonna guess you can't kill them, because they could probably grab bullets. How much further we got to go, hun? Close, she says. It's just at the end of this hallway. Dennis speaks up, his voice like ice. Why don't we just haul ass then, huh? No one says anything after that, but I can feel the presence of terror around us, pressing in on us like some new violent gravity. Yoinks! The small utility hallway is well lit. It looks as if it was designed to only be used by select maintenance workers. What goes on in this area? I ask. I'm looking at Marcus as I ask the question, but he only shrugs in response. She might know, he replies, pointing to Amy. I've never been down here before. It's just a utility hallway, Amy says. But at the end there's a maintenance room. There should be a gun and two in there. It's also the most direct path to the hangar entrance. As we walk quickly and quietly down the hall, I take a glimpse ahead and feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. The lights become more sparsely spaced, and it's impossible to see just how far the hall extends into the darkness. This hallway has the occasional trace of bloodshed, but nothing like the main area we've come from. We continue farther down, and just as I begin to see what looks like a large metal door further ahead, I hear yet another shrill sound. This one sounds farther away, but no less demonic. How many of these things did you see? Dennis asked Amy. 3, but that's just what I saw. There could be more. What did they look like? Dennis asks. Bro, yeah, what are we dealing with? I don't even know how to explain them, she says. Monsters. That's the only word I can think of. My mind seemed to struggle just trying to understand what I was seeing. They're big and they seem to jerk around every few feet or so. They look like they look like they're made of light. That's about all I know for sure. You know, my ex-husband always said I'd let my work kill me, she continues, seeming unable to stop herself. I mean, I doubt he imagined this exact scenario, but still. As we make our way to the hangar doors, another high-pitched noise rings out, angrier now. Amy stops walking, causing all of us to stop and turn to her. We have to do something to slow those things down, she says. No, Marcus snaps, there's no time. We need to distance ourselves and get to the hangar. Fast. Amy ignores him, deep in thought. There's an old hydraulic door set in the wall right here, she says. It hasn't been used for years, though. She looks to me, pleading her case. Together we might be able to pull it closed behind us to keep those things back. Those old hydraulic doors weigh a ton, Marcus says. There's no way it'll work. Roger, Amy says. What do you think? They'll have a hard time getting to us if those doors are locked. Look, Marcus shouts, turning to me. We need to get to the hangars now. Here is my line of thought. If these boys are rearranging people's insides to make them their outsides, they can probably just rearrange the doors. So, let's just yeet to the hangar. No, I say to the group. With all the carnage back there, I doubt we could stop them. That's what I'm saying, Marcus argues. Let's haul ass. Amy tries to speak up. But the rest of us are already running down the hallway. I speed toward the hangar doors, not even looking back to see how far Amy has fallen behind us. Amy finna die. Panic and hope are fighting within me, and I can't help myself from sprinting. The fact that yet another shrill noise sounds elsewhere in the facility is not calming. And then there are two of them. It almost sounds like they're calling out to one another. The doors to the hangar sit up ahead like the entrance to some enormous labyrinth. Continue. Oh, yeah. Kinda looks like a garage door. When we reach the hangar doors, I get a true sense of how impenetrable they are. A computer terminal is mounted to the walls nearby and has a blinking red light. Any idea what this means, I ask? It's an automatic lock. A failsafe from the lockdown, says Amy. I've never been down here before, Micah says. If I had known this door was here, I would have opened it earlier. How? Amy asks. The fear in her voice is more present than ever. From the command center, he says. You need to override from there first, then use this terminal to open the hangar doors. The command center on the second floor? I ask. Yeah. Amy shakes her head and lets out a nervous laugh. Do you hear those things? There's no way in hell I'm going back toward them through that small hallway. If we want to get into the hangar, we have to go back to the command center, Marcus says. Isn't there another way? Turning to Marcus, Amy replies, Well, there is an elevator, but we'll need to go through the biochem storage. I need to stay with Dennis so he can rest, I say. You two go. You know your way around this place, and you know the controls, Marcus. Fine, but we'll need to be armed. Marcus seems to be doing a little bit better mentally, so I think I'm gonna hand him the rifle. I hand Marcus the rifle and he turns to go. Amy gives me a concerned look, but follows along behind him. Once Amy and Marcus make it a good distance down the hallway, Dennis lets out a nervous laugh. And then there were two, he says. Dennis looks much better, but he still needs to use the wall to stay standing. Didn't Amy say there were 2 guns and emergency kits in the maintenance room near the hangar doors, I ask? Yeah, I think so, Dennis says, looking exhausted. I look ahead and see a door to the right that reads maintenance. Might as well give it a try. I go to the door, try to open it, and find that it's locked. I'm gonna kick it. You always kick the hinges, because that's the weaker part of the door. I am about to try again, but that's when I hear the dry choking sound from just down the hall. It's barely audible, but it's not my imagination. My first thought is that it's one of those things, one of the monsters. But after calming my nerves and reassessing, it sounds more like a person. I think about how angry and on edge Amy was when she turned to leave, as well as how scared Marcus had looked. Shit. Alarm bells sound in my head, and before I know it, I'm heading back down the hall, away from the hangar doors. Stay here, I'll be right back, I whisper over my shoulder to Dennis. See if you can figure out how to get into the maintenance room. Where are you going? He asks. I don't bother answering him as I bound through the door where Amy and Marcus went. I think I may have fucked up. Possibly. Just a little bit. Upstairs. As I enter the biochem room and start walking between the massive silos, I wonder what classified chemicals could be hidden inside them. I'm just interjecting my own words into the sentences. I'm fully expecting one of Amy's creatures to come flying out from the intersection of halls up ahead. I think I hear something. A skittering noise, like something moving quickly. I run ahead so fast that I almost trip over two people in a life-or-death struggle. My mind tries to process what I'm seeing, but it makes no sense. Not at all. Marcus is on the floor with Amy pinned beneath him. He has his rifle at her throat, pushing her down to the floor and choking her with it. Her face is turning purple and her eyes look like they might pop out of her head. Marcus sees me coming out of the hall, but acts as if what he's doing is perfectly normal. I'm just gonna stop him, because, like, either way, if he decides to shoot me, he can shoot me. I start rushing toward him before I really know what I'm doing. I bring my first hand down, my fist down at a hard arc across the bridge of his nose, and I'm rewarded with a sick cracking sound. It was sick, dude. So sick. I'm sorry. He cries out as he falls to the ground, looking at me, and as if he doesn't understand why I punched him. On the floor, Amy clutches at her neck and gasps for breath. I start to fear that I was a moment too late, just as I see the rifle has been thrown across the floor. Marcus seems to notice this is the exact moment that I do. I'll tin him again for hitting me earlier. I deliver a surprisingly strong blow with my right hand, clipping his chin from my awkward position. I am in the process of planting a knee in his chest to hold him down when his left foot comes out of nowhere, landing hard. The kick catches me squarely in the ribs, knocking the breath out of me. "What the hell are you doing?" he yells at me. "By killing her, I'm saving us. All of this was her fault." I sense that he truly believes this, but if that's the case, then why not shoot her rather than strangle her with a rifle? The answer is simple. We would have heard the gunshot, and I, or those things, would have come running. She wanted to kill her quietly. And then what? Would he have done the same to Dennis and me? It seems fitting, really. When we first came upon Marcus, he had held a gun on me. I'd been so relieved to see another human being that I had underestimated just how unhinged he was. Damn, I really did. Marcus and I both die for the rifle, still laying on the floor, and start wrestling for possession, but I'm not confident I'll come away with it. As we struggle, he starts inching the muzzle of the gun toward my face, a position I do not want to be in. I start pushing back hard. But if this thing accidentally fires, I'm not sure whether I'd prefer the bullet to go. Especially in this room full of chemical tanks. Mass destruction! I grunt as I push the muzzle to face away from both of us, which ends up being toward the large tanks. In the struggle, the gun does go off, and after a flash, a bullet hole appears in the side of one of the tanks. A strange green liquid starts to leak out, and I hold my breath, hoping it's not explosive or harmful. It's not. As soon as it lands on the ground, some kind of thick, twisted moss starts to grow unnaturally fast. I have no idea what this is, or if it's safe for us to be rolling on the ground a few feet away from it. Luckily, this strange growth distracts Marcus for an instant. I grip the rifle tighter and push forward. The side of the rifle catches him directly in the chin. His hips snap back and his hand releases the rifle. I get to my feet as quickly as I can, swinging the rifle back around on him. For a moment, I think I've knocked him out, but his eyes flutter and he looks at me as if I've betrayed him. "Her people," he says. "It was them that did this. She deserves to die. She did this." I look to Amy, and I wish I could help her. I'm relieved to see she's managing to draw in a few breaths. Her legs move as she tries to push herself into a sitting position. "You wouldn't know," Marcus says. "You didn't work here under their secrecy. You don't know what it's like to..." He surprises me by lunging toward me, leaping from the floor like a human projectile. I don't have time to aim carefully. I have to react fast. I'm really trying to avoid killing him, but it keeps really trying to make me kill him, so I'm not gonna do it. Dodge. His aim is poor and his strength is failing, so I dodge him easily. I don't want to have another gun go off and alert those creatures again. We've made enough noise already. Make a hard stab of the butt of the rifle, striking him in the chest. Something crunches and he lets out a whoosh of air. He crumples for a moment and then goes on his knees. He roars in pain on the floor. Only after a few moments I realize that they're not purely screams of pain. This bastard is calling for them, calling for these creatures to come for us. This place is evil, along with everyone involved, he wails on the floor. If you're taking her side, then you deserve to die too. If you want to stop me, you'd better do it now, you coward. The rage in his eyes at Amy, as well as towards me for stopping him, make me think that he'll deliver on his threat. I raise the rifle again, every urge in my body wanting to make sure he doesn't come back to bite us. But I'm not a violent man. I could easily not kill him and just leave him behind. Let's think. We shoot the gun, we kill him. Freaky monsters come after all the ruckus to see what the noise was. We don't shoot the gun. And if the freaky monsters eat him while he's alive. Pacifist route. Just like when I could barely shoot earlier as he was coming at me, I can't bring myself to deliver a kill shot. I ignore him and lean down to Amy. Jesus, hiccups. You okay? I ask. She nods slowly. I have to go, she says. Her voice is raspy. They'll be here any minute. Too much noise. I have to hold her arm so she can get to her feet. We start forward and then I think of Dennis. We should go back to the hangar doors, I say. I can't just leave Dennis there. There's no time, Amy says. You need to come up with me to the command center. Now. We'll be back for him soon. You're all dead now anyway, Marcus shrieks. If they don't get you, I will. He laughs manically after saying this, hooting like a madman. Is it maniacally or manically? Sorry. As if in response, a high-pitched noise tears through the hallway. I seem to feel it in my bones. They're following his noise now, Amy says, her voice still weak. She takes off away from Marcus, presumably toward the other elevator she'd mentioned moments ago. I follow her. As we move out, I hear Marcus slowly push himself off the ground and stumble off, slipping in between the tanks and disappearing. We start running, and after the first few strides, another noise sounds out. It sounds mechanical, but at the same time, it also reminds me of recordings I've heard of whale songs. I dare to look behind us and see something has entered the doorway I came through. It's large and bright, but it's too far to see clearly, and I have no interest in seeing it. Whether pulling that hydraulic door would have helped, I'm not sure, but seeing how close they are, I regret not doing it. I speed up my step to follow Amy as she leads the way to the other elevator. She's panting furiously but pushes on. I can hear something rattling her breath, likely the result of Marcus's attack. This makes me imagine how his cold, uncaring eyes must have looked, staring down at her as he tried to deliver her to death. How is she still I am so sorry, I can no longer read, I hit my limit. How she is still forging on is beyond me. I'm sorry about Marcus, I say. It's not your fault, she interrupts. When you handed him the gun, you didn't know he would use it on me. I just hope we find a way to survive this mess. We got this. Go gang. I'm not so sure, she says, her eyes fixed straight ahead. I'm not sure I can blame her. I just wanted to say something encouraging, I guess. We finally come to the elevator at the end of the row of silos. Now I'm more concerned with this monstrosity that is on our heels. Amy furiously slaps at the button to open the doors. They slide open slowly. It feels like it's taking forever. We squeeze in before the doors are opened all the way, Amy actually falling to her knees and screaming. I ready the rifle and watch helplessly as the doors finally reach their full opening capacity. As they hold open, I see a large shape floating toward us. A phosphorescent, white glow outlines an impossible shape. Behind it, I see another shape that's also entered the biochem room. And another. The third one breaks away from the other two, taking a quick right. It moves with eerie speed. That's the director. That's the direction Marcus has gone. Honestly, the thought of them hunting him down doesn't bother me in the slightest. Amy is pressing the button. Jesus. Amy is pressing the button to close the elevator doors over and over, but they stay open for it feels like an eternity. I curse whoever designed these damn doors. I'm just gonna hide. Amy and I slide ourselves up against the sides of the elevator, trying to avoid being seen. But I can't help peeking her. Bitch, don't! I hold the rifle steady, ready to fire, and that's when I see them in a clear light for the first time. I can see their features, their shape, and their colors, but my mind can't quite process it all. Nothing about them makes sense. My eyes try to see a squid, but that's not what these things are. They're gray and white and seem to be nothing more than swarming light. Their appendages are neither legs nor tentacles, but somewhere in between. They don't walk on these appendages, but they use them to glide. They move like ghosts and seem to jerk every few feet or so. But I'm pretty sure that this jerking effect is not the result of their moving, but my mind's inability to understand how they are moving exactly. It's also more than their appearance that makes a mockery of reality. The light around them seems to bend inward, as if the space within the room has to reshape itself for their existence. That peculiar effect on air makes their movement seem like something moving underwater, only faster. They screech in unison as they rush toward the elevator. They'll be inside here in another few seconds. I check the rifle and see my ammo is diminishing. I have to start saving shots. I'm going to have to be choosy. Shoot at them. Now about a foot remains between the sliding doors. I find my muscle reacting instinctively again. I pull the trigger. The shot fills the elevator, and there is a thunder in my ears. I hit the thing in its center, and its reaction is not what I expect. The monster pauses in spasms for about 2 seconds. Its body of light flickers for a moment, similar to a light bulb on the brink of burning out. My finger keeps pulling the trigger. The throb of the rifle in my hand is comforting, and each screech from the creature is like music. But then I realize that this is only seeming to be slowing it down. Its tentacles seem to tighten and then loosen, like a weird muscle reflex. But then it's on the move again, unharmed by the shots. Finally, the elevator door closes. The creatures wash against the other side of the door, making an electrical noise and crying out in anger. The tips of their spider-like appendages poke through the wall and elevator door, but for some reason they can't get all the way through. Amy screams at this and crawls into a ball in the far corner of the elevator, crying. I say nothing to her. I just cling to the rifle, hoping those creatures don't find Dennis, as he waits by the hangar doors where I left him. For his sake and for ours, we need to get them open now. End of chapter 3. I hope y'all enjoyed that. My apologies that toward the end I became no longer able to speak English. That is, one of the downfalls of not being able to speak English. If you enjoyed this, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting the bell because YouTube's dumb. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!